Hello, everyone, and welcome to Schwab Coaching. My name is Cameron May. I'm a Senior Manager of Trading and Derivatives Education here at Schwab, and this is Getting Started with Thinkorswim. We're approaching the end of 2025. Thinkorswim's engineers have been just busy making changes, evolving the platform, improving things, and I wanted to go look back over the last 12 months and talk through what I consider to be my top 10 features you may not know have changed or been added to the platform over the last year. I think that's a great topic. I think there's going to be revelations for just about everybody here. Before we can get to those top 10 items, let me first of all say hello to everybody who's chatting in out there in YouTube. Great to see so many familiar names, as it always is. Hello there, Eva and Will, Robert, JDLMI, Greg, Marcus, Ro, David, everybody else. Thanks for joining us week after week. We always appreciate your attendance and your contributions to these discussions. If you're here for the very first time, I want to welcome you as well. And if you're joining or if you're watching the YouTube archive after the live stream has concluded, enjoy that recording. It's a great way to watch these webcasts, but be aware that you're invited to join us in the live stream. If you'd like to be here, this is a Wednesday webcast series, and we kick things off promptly at 2 Eastern time. Now, I also want to let you know that my peer, co-worker, longtime peer, we've actually been working now for nearly 20 years together. Connie Hill is going to be hanging out in the chats with us. Connie's going to be addressing any questions that I can't get to during the flow of the presentation. Thanks for having my back there, Connie. Connie and I would also like to issue an invitation to everybody listening to follow us on social media. You can find us both on X. You can find Connie on X at Connie Hill CS. Give her a follow there. You can also follow me there at Cameron May CS. Now, additionally, as of about a month ago, you can also follow me on LinkedIn. Just go to linkedin.com/in, throw on another slash, and then it's Cameron May CS to take you right to my profile, and you can give me a follow. But let's get into this discussion of 10 changes that happened in 2025 that you may not have noticed, all right? Now, of course, as we do this, we need to bear in mind the risks associated with trading and investing. Risks are real, so keep this important information top of mind. All corporate or issuer names and market data shown are for illustrative purposes only and are not a recommendation, offer to sell, or a solicitation of an offer to buy any security. Options carry a high level of risk and are not suitable for all investors. Schwab does not recommend the use of technical analysis as the sole means of investment research, and investing involves risks, including loss of principal. All right, so what's the agenda for today? Very straightforward. I want to take us to the platform and start working through 10 tools or features that were added to the Thinkorswim platform or expanded upon within the platform within the calendar year of 2025. So let's go right to tool number one, feature number one. And this is for those who like to keep a little tidy track of their trades and their preferred tax method approaches, LIFO or FIFO. You can make a default selection for your trades, for the recording of your trades within your Schwab Online account, but you can also make specific per trade selections for what we call the tax lot method from within Thinkorswim. So let me first of all show you. If you don't know how to make a selection for a default method to be applied across all trades, you can do that within your Schwab Online account. So you just go to schwab.com, log into your online account. Here's a sort of a fake demonstration account, but you just go up to your profile up here in the upper right and go to your cost basis methods and make your selection down below. So if I scroll down here a little bit, you'll see the default lot selection method, first in, first out, last in, first out, high cost, low cost, or using what's called the tax lot optimizer by Schwab. And of course, a natural question here might be, hey, Cameron, which one should I use? That's up to you and your tax preparer. I'm an educator. It's not my role to advise how taxes should be handled. But there is a new feature within Thinkorswim that allows us to make exceptions to this default method on a per trade basis. So this was added in 2025. Let's go start to place a trade. And how about we just stay with Apple? I'm going to use Apple for most of our demonstrations today. I'm going to click on the ask price here. That creates just a default buy order. Before I submit that buy order, A lot of you are familiar with what are known as the trade conditions features over here to the far right that can be accessed by just hovering over this apparently blank box. Actually, as I hover over that, you'll notice a little gear appears that allows us to put in some custom conditions here. And among those conditions is a new menu for 2025, your tax lot method. Now notice, by default, it goes to that default that was selected on Schwab.com. But if we're placing a trade and we prefer, well, let's say for this trade, we're going to use a different tax reporting approach, then we can make that change right here. And again, this is specific to this trade. It's not changing the default. It's just for this trade. Let's say, for this example portfolio, I had FIFO selected as the default. Let's say we wanted this trade to be LIFO. There we go. We can just click Save and proceed with the trade. So that's a new feature as of 2025, an easy one to slip under the radar, but I think you can probably see how useful that might be. Now, a second feature was added in a subsequent 2025 release, and that was to help us keep track of these little individual selections that we had made on different trades. So I want to use an example trade in our portfolio here. Let's go to our Monitor tab. This is where we go to monitor the progress of today's trade activity. We can track the progress of existing positions, and that's what I want to talk about here. As I go down to the bottom, we'll find here's General Electric. We own 30 shares, but those shares were actually purchased at different times. Let's suppose that we had purchased 10 shares and we had said FIFO for these, and on the next trade, we did LIFO for that. Well, we can see the details of those distinctions by clicking on the quantity. A lot of you are familiar with this pop-up that we get that takes us to a breakdown of when we purchased these shares. But we can also get the lot details right there. All right. So now in this example portfolio, it's just fake trading. There's no tax reporting going on. So there's no designations here that I would be able to demonstrate, but in a real live portfolio, this is where you'd go to find those details. So just that quickly, we've gone through two new features that I think a lot of our users of thinkorswim might have overlooked. And by the way, toward the end, I'll show you where you can keep tabs on these sorts of new developments, new additions to the platform, so you don't miss them. Okay? Zipporah just asked this question. Hi, Cameron. Kindly show us how to place a covered call order when I have 100 shares, for example. And then you're asking about now. Unfortunately, that's not what I'm doing in this webcast. Just taking sort of open format questions. It's a legitimate question, though, and I certainly do have. I frequently demonstrate how to place trades on things like covered calls. I actually have a webcast series called Trading Covered Calls and Short Puts. So you may want to check out that webcast series. But yes, it is certainly possible when we own, I'll just tell you quickly, if we own 100 shares, we just place an order to sell a call in the same account in which the shares are held, and that makes it the covered call. So there you go. But in any case, let's move on to our third kind of nifty new tool that was added, maybe slid under a lot of users' radars, and that is that we can now filter the news that we choose to see through thinkorswim. Thinkorswim has a number of different resources, a number of different services that provide live news updates, maybe on stocks that are important to the individual trader and investor. And we can keep an eye on those using the gadgets in the left column, and specifically using the live news gadget. So I've already loaded up the live news gadget. If you don't have it, you can add it by switching an existing gadget and just choosing live news right there. Okay. But in any case, let's say that we're keeping an eye on developing news for Apple, but maybe the trader has a preference for which service provider is delivering that news. Now you'll notice right up here next to the live news on Apple, there's a new column heading. Right there it says all 10 channels, all 10 services providing news updates. And by default, the selection is to show news regardless of the source, whether it's CNBC or Reuters and MT Newswires, Dow Jones Company, or so on. But for some traders, they do have a preference for which service. So we can now unselect all channels and just select the ones. Let's say we just wanted to see the news stemming from the feed from CNBC. We can check the box just for CNBC, and it looks like we have a much smaller list of news headlines coming across the newswire. Now, if we add another, how about we add Reuters? Looks like Reuters just has one additional headline for today, or recently, I should say. If we tack on Benzinga, there's even more. Anyway, let's switch this back to the all channels. For a lot of traders, they're not going to have a preference. For others, they certainly do. So that's a nifty little feature. Easily slides under the radar. I wanted to call attention to that one. By the way, these are just 10 out of dozens of updates that have been made to the platform. So certainly someone watching is going to say, hey, Cameron, you showed your top 10. I disagree. You missed on this other important addition or something else that I really liked. That's okay. I'll show you where you can find all of those updates and keep yourself up to speed on new developments on Thinkorswim toward the end of the discussion. In any case, that's kind of cool tool number 3 that might have slid under the radar. Number 4, I think, is going to have wide appeal, particularly for those who actively use watch lists over here in the left column. And this is that we can create custom column sets, but also save those custom column sets. So for example, let's just go to our watch list here, and let's say that our trader has their own personal list of watch lists. Maybe it's a bullish watch list, maybe it's an income stock or value stocks. How about we create a watch list, and then we're going to create a custom set of columns that we're going to use just for that watch list. So let's do that. Let's go over here. And just as an example, let's set up maybe a value watch list. We're going to create a scan for some very basic example value stocks. Let's save those as a watch list, and then we're going to set up a custom set of columns for that. So how about our would-be value investors looking for maybe not the gigantic companies, they're looking for something with what they see as maybe more potential for well, maybe it's just in a smaller capitalization company, or maybe, I don't know, maybe for some they might prefer a larger cap. Let's experiment with this a little bit. Let's go with market cap, and let's say that our investor maybe is looking for companies between 2 billion, in other words, 2,000 million in size, up to maybe 5 billion or 5,000 million. I know it's an awkward way to say it, but that's the way these are displayed when looking at market capitalization. This is being displayed in millions of dollars, so 2,000 million is 2 billion. So let's say that we're scanning for stocks in that range, and maybe within those, we're looking for stocks that haven't really, maybe they've gone up, we don't know, but let's say staying outside of the triple digits, quadruple digits price stocks. How about we look for last prices, stocks that are trading between, I don't know, maybe $30 and $50. So obviously these are just as examples. The purpose here more is to demonstrate the tool rather than teach the concept, right? But finally, let's say that our value investor is looking for stocks maybe that aren't trading at very high multiples of earnings over the last 12 months. So let's look for a PE ratio. Let's say possible PE ratio not really low, where it might be seen by some as being a vote of no confidence by investors not willing to pay even a high-ish multiple because they don't think historical earnings are going to repeat. But in any case, let's say our PE preference is between 10 on the low end and maybe 18 on the high end, right? So basically, here's our value investor looking for these sort of mid-cap companies on the small end of mid-cap, priced between maybe $30 and $50, and possibly with PE ratio between 10 and 18. If I click scan, looks like there are only about 49 companies that meet those criteria. So let's save this scan, which automatically adds it as well as a watch list. So I'm going to come up here. Let's click on Save Scan Query. We're just going to call this value and save that. So the next time I want to run a similar scan, I could just come to the scan tool and load up that scan. Or when we save a scan, it also creates a watch list over here. So I'm going to switch up our watch list to my personal watch list. And what do you know? There's the value watch list of those 49 companies. Now, I'm going to save. Let's open this up just a little bit. But you'll notice just to the left of our watch list headline, or heading, there's this. It's not entirely new, but new in 2025. This allows us to create custom column sets. So let's first of all create a new custom column set here. How about for our value investor? They want to see market capitalization. They want to see last. Last is already there, but market cap and PE are not. So let's customize this. Let's click Customize. Let's add market cap. Add that. Let's remove these others. How about the net change and the approximate borrow size, which is, as a matter of fact, another new feature from this year. Anyway, let's go for last, market cap, and let's say PE ratio. There it is right there. Let's add that. And we're going to click Save As. And you'll notice this is a feature that was not available even earlier in 2025. It's been added as of 2025. But let's just call this our value list of column sets, or just column set. And you'll now notice right here, it says value. So let's say that our trader has maybe a growth watch list, and they have a specific set of columns they like to look at it for their growth stocks or would-be growth stocks. They have a value watch list, and they like to look at a different set of columns for that. And finally, maybe dividend. You can see a number of reasons. So JDLMI just asked an important question. This is certainly something I could have clarified a little bit earlier in the presentation had I thought of it. But thanks for the question there. Question is the save columns only on the live platform? Are these custom column sets, is the ability to save these only on the live? Yes. This feature, along with several of the others that I'm going to be demonstrating today, is only available on the live platform. So that's not unique to the things that I'm demonstrating today. Our Thinkorswim Paper Money platform has tons of great features. It does a great job of mimicking the live platform, but it's not 100% exactly the same. So yeah, if you're trying to follow along with some of these new features, make sure you're doing it on a live platform. This that I'm using today is it's kind of a fake live platform, but it does have all these new features. Good question. Thanks for asking it. So that, I'm going to say, is feature number 4. One of those under the radar features. This one's a little bit more evident if you're a common user of the watch list. It just shows up when you're customized and things like that. It's a little bit more apparent. But I also think it's going to have a pretty broad appeal to a lot of users. Eric says, is there a plan to move it to Paper Money? Another good question, Eric. I don't have visibility into changes that are planned for either platform, for live or for Paper Money, from our engineers. Every once in a while, in their release notes, sometimes they'll tease at what might be coming down the pipeline. Other than that, I don't know. Okay. All right. So feature number 5. Speaking of watch lists, speaking of custom column sets, there's a new custom column, and it's one of hundreds or dozens. So it might not sound like much, but I think this is one that a lot of people are going to like. So let's look at it. Let's go to our watch list here of our value stocks. And a trader might ask themselves, I wonder which one of these is having the best run over the last 5 days, the last month, the year to date. There's actually a column set for that now, or just a column. Let me go to the Customize again. And I'm going to add something known as the percent change since. Yeah, it's the percent change in the value of the stock, or yes, in the change in the value of the sector. That's another way that this might be used. Since 5 days ago, a month ago, let's add this. So notice here, it says percent change since, and before I click OK, it's giving me a menu over here to the right. Do I want to look at the percent change since 5 days ago, 20 days ago, a month, 6 months, or year? Let's do year to date. So I'm going to select year to date and click OK. And I now have a column here. Let me just widen this out a little bit so you can see this. I can see, oh, AB here is up 10% year to date. Some of these others not doing so well. The nifty advantage of adding this as a custom column here is we can click on that and reorient or reorganize our watch list according to that percent change. So we can organize this from worst performers to best, or click on the column heading again, best performers to worst, and we could switch this up, maybe load up other watch lists. What if we were to switch to a public watch list? Let's look at the S&P 500. I wonder which, we may not care, for the trader may not be particularly interested in what the PE ratio is necessarily, if this isn't their objective for this discussion of these stocks, but let's see which companies have had the best run from the S&P 100 for the year. Anybody want to make any guesses? Let me click on that percent change year to date. Let's look at best to worst first. Palantir, up 152% year to date. Who has had the worst run? United Health, down 35% for the year. So that's a new column that can be added. You can see how it even within it's customizable for different time frames. I think that's going to have some wide appeal. The percent change since. So that's 5 new tools that we've learned. Might have slid under the radar in 2025. Next up, we're going to move to charts and look at some features that have been added there. So you chartists, this one's for you. Let's go over here to Thinkorswim charts. Let's just use Apple. And some of you will use a bar up at the top. It doesn't appear by default. It has to be added through the chart settings, but it's known as My Tools. So let's add that so you can see what I'm talking about. I'm going to go up to Chart Settings. And right here on the General tab, down in the lower right, is the My Tools. Chat in, let me know if you use My Tools right now. So I'm going to click on, I'm going to add this to On Each Chart. Okay, I'm going to select the On Each Chart from that menu is what I meant to say. Let's click Apply and click OK. And as I did that, what you'll notice up here is a little, it's a bar full of tools that appeared momentarily and then it disappeared. Let me make that reappear. I'm going to slide up here to the top and you'll notice there are these tools that drop down, right? I'm actually going to hit the pause button on the discussion here for just a second because I noticed something earlier. I was going to go to it. I forgot to. Let's go to it right now because Connie has just reposted a survey link in the chat window. Thanks for doing that, Connie. Definitely appreciate it. But yes, for those who are here in the live stream audience, there is a survey that's been added to the chat window. So here's the way that works. Click the survey link right now. Then just wait till the webcast is over to fill out the survey. But if you've never filled out one of our surveys before, it's really straightforward. 2 multiple choice questions and a comments box and a suggestion box. So it's a really short survey. Also, if you take the time to fill it out, and that gets routed right to me, and I read through that data. I read through the data, I read through the comments, I read through the suggestions, and it always helps. So thanks for doing that for me. Very much appreciated. Back to the My Tools feature here, though. Yeah, you'll notice when it's been selected, we have access to this bar, and the intended purpose of this bar is to give us quick access to tools or let's say studies, things like that, you know, a technical study like a simple moving average, or a drawing tool like a trend line or a text note, things that trader maybe commonly uses. And this is customizable. If we come over here to this little gear icon, we can add new buttons. So right now we have trend line and text note and Fibonacci and so on, but we can add technical studies. We can add drawing tools. How about if we add an oval tool? Let's choose that. That's now going to be displayed up here. Let's click Save. But it just gives us quick access to those things. And you'll notice it hides itself if we don't need it. But if we'd like that to just stay up there as a static bar rather than hiding itself like a drawer every time, we can just click the little pin here. And I'm going to do that for now. Just make sure that stays up there. But it gives us quick access up here. If I click on price level, I can now draw a price line or a price level line. If I want to draw a trend line, I can click on the trend line tool and get quick access that way. But there's a new feature. None of this is new. The new feature is right up here in the upper right. We can apply, when we make a selection of one of these things, let's say I want to draw trend lines, I can select that tool for just one chart, or I can select it for multiple charts. So let's say that I'm using a grid chart. Let's load up a grid chart. Let's load up Apple over here as well. Do I want to use Apple? Let's use a different chart, just so you can see a distinction here. But in any case, so over here, I have access to those same tools and I can make selections. But if I don't want to have to go up and, let's say I want to switch this to an oval. I want to be able to draw ovals here, and I'd like to be able to pop over here and draw an oval. What I need to do is select right up here, select where it says apply to the whole grid. So then when I make a change, it switches my active tool to an oval on this chart and an oval on this chart. If I make this just for this tool or for this chart, and I switch to, let's say, a trend line, notice I now have a trend line tool here, but this is still drawing ovals. So that's kind of nice. A faster integration of a popular tool across a range of different charts. So I'll call that the nifty tool number 6 that you might not have noticed. And maybe this is just your introduction to the My Tools overall. Let me go back up here and switch up our grid. There we go again. Let's move on to number 7. So Lawrence, you haven't used that tool, that feature before? All right, well, I'm going to take this off just so you know how it's done. We know how to apply it, how to fix it so it doesn't move, how to customize it, how to apply it across multiple charts. Well, now to take it off, we go back up to our chart settings, make sure that we're on the General tab, and let's just turn that off. There we are. Number 7, staying here on charts, is something known as a chart navigator. Let me clean up my chart. I'm going to right-click on the drawings that we've made already. Let's clear our drawing set. Just click yes. And there are times when a trader just wants a closer look. So they use the zoom feature on thinkorswim charts. So let's maybe say we're looking at this period when it's sort of chopping around. I'm going to zoom in on that with just a click and a drag. And that's going to zoom in. So now we're just looking at that time frame. But we've lost some important context. Yes, we probably remember what happened before this time frame and what happened after it, but not exactly. And for some traders, even as they're looking closely at things, they want that bird's eye view again. So there is a feature that's been added. It's known as the Chart Navigator. Let's go up here to our chart settings again. And what we're doing now is playing with the time axis. We've zoomed in on a shorter period of time, but we want to see the longer time perspective. So I'm going to go to the time axis and show what's called the Chart Navigator. Actually, before I do that, let me just backpedal for just a moment. We know that when we zoom in on a given time frame, we can actually scroll back and forth using that same period of time. Let's say we've zoomed in on 2 months. We can advance that 2 months forward. We can pull it backward, just staying on that 2-month time frame within our, in this case, 1-year chart, using a scroll bar down at the bottom, or we can use the arrows. We can use the right arrow to go forward 1 candle, left arrow to go backward 1 candle, or this left arrow do the same thing, backward 1 candle. But still, we're left with some guesswork regarding what's coming up and what has already transpired. So to get that bird's eye view, let's go back here to our chart settings. Let's go to our time axis and show the Chart Navigator. And when I click apply and OK, it looks pretty similar. We're still zoomed in, but we now have the context. Do you notice we now have this sort of opaque, it's not opaque, it's somewhat transparent. Anyway, the scroll bar down at the bottom we can see through it. And this is sort of a miniaturized version of the entire time frame of our chart. So we can see what's coming and what has happened in the past. So we have that context again. Now we can still scroll back and forth, but this just now lets us see, I think with more precision, what the trader has selected. JDLMI says, Cam, you know everything? No, I don't. Anyway, but that's our chart navigator. We can still advance one candle at a time. We can still go backward one candle at a time. But I think for a lot of traders, this is likely to be an improvement over just using a scroll bar. For others, they might think it's not necessary for what they do. That's fine. CB says, is there an undo feature? Could you tell me an undo of what? And Dupuy says, how do we add this feature? So I'm going to show you how. I'm just going to remove it, and that will also simultaneously tell you how to add it. It's up here under our chart settings. You go to time axis because we're playing with the time frame that we're viewing, and it's right there, the chart navigator. So I'm going to uncheck it, but you would check it to add it. That's it. Okay. I click apply. Now we're just back to the normal scroll bar. And to undo, that's how we undo that tool. To undo this zoom that we've done, a couple of things that we can do. We can use the magnifying glasses down here. So we can zoom in or we can zoom back out. Another thing that we can do is just double click on a chart. And it pops right back to the default time frame. Okay. All right, so that's tool number 7. Let's go on to tool number 8, staying right here on the chart. And this is for those that like to use alerts. You know, maybe if the stock goes up to a certain level, you like to get a message on your, like a text to your phone or an email sent to you. Or the stock falls below a certain level. Well, used to be we could only do one chart or one alert per chart. It's not true anymore. For example, let's say that we're keeping an eye on Apple. The stock's right here. Maybe our trader's interested if the price falls from 278 and it goes down to, who knows, maybe down here to these previous lows around 265. Maybe they're looking at support or possibly running up there through resistance. Maybe we go up to 289 or 290. Let's put on an alert. Let's tell the system to ping us if the price falls down to 265 or if it rises to 290. To do that, we just right click on our chart and create an alert. And we're going to use this new feature called Add OCO Condition. So that sounds like a trade. It's not a trade. It's just using familiar terminology for 2 alerts. So if I choose OCO Condition, you'll notice I have 2 choices now for price. Alert me if the market price goes at or above 290 as an example. Or let's say alert me if the market price is at or below, there we go, and let's say 265. There we go. Now we might make a note here if we like, but let's just click create. Now we can tell, we can do the other alert functions. I'm not going to go deeply into those because I just wanted to show the new feature. But let's click create, and we'll see now there is an alert to notify us if price rises up to 290. There's another alert if it happens to fall down to 265. Now, if we want to change those, we can actually just click. Let's say we want to change this one to be at or below 270. I'm just going to click and drag that up, and let's just, as soon as I release that click, it gets this pop-up. Our old alert was below 265. Our new alert is at or below 270.04. That's close enough. Let's click replace, and we're done. All right. So that's a new feature for those of you who use alerts. I'm going to take those alerts off by clicking on the X, and they're gone. 2 more. The first one is going to be maybe a little bit more for our options traders. And then the last one, I want to show you a resource that can that can keep you up to speed on all of these new developments, so you don't let these things slide past you, like maybe has happened in 2025 with the new additions to the platform. But I'm going to go over here to our Analyze tab, and I'm going to use our Risk Profile tool. There's a new feature there in 2025 that some might be familiar, that some might want to be aware of. But the first thing I need to do before we do this, and by the way, yes, this is for options traders. I'm going to assume a basic level of familiarity with the Analyze Risk Profile feature. But I'm going to add a quick simulated trade. Let's say for an option example trade, let's get rid of this one that's down here already. Let's go to the 16th of January, and let's say that we're just going to buy, trading around 280. Let's put an example order in to buy one contract of the 280 calls. So if I switch now to our risk profile, we see what's probably a familiar feature. We have two lines representing how this trade may play out. So this is how much our long call might make, and actually, let's make sure we don't have any others hanging around here. Let's take off that stock. There we go. All right. Anyway, so there's our long call. It can make an unlimited amount of money if it goes up. We can lose the value of the investment if we go down at expiration. We expire worthless. But this is what I wanted to talk about, the price slices, right? These price slices have been expanded upon. Some of you may not know there's a feature. So a typical price slice, let me open up our price slices down here so you can see what these are specifically. So this is showing how the option contract might do if the stock were to go up 10%, let's say from 278 up to 306, or if the stock were to fall down 10% from 278 down to about 250. That's what those slices, as they're currently displayed, are showing. Now we can also put on different types of slices. Let's set these slices differently. By default, it's plus or minus 10%. In this menu, there's something known as the SPX beta test. Has anybody ever used that? This is what has changed. It's actually been expanded. The SPX beta test is showing how a contract might perform, not as the stock goes up or down, but as the S&P 500 goes up or down. So I'm going to switch this to the SPX beta test. And what our engineers have done are just added more of these slices. The slices, yes, are customizable. We can change the distances if we like. For example, keep your eye on this one. So here's the current price. This one's going to change as I manipulate right here. Right now, this SPX beta test slice is set at 12% below the current value of SPX. Let's just move this to be less negative, and you see that slice adjusting itself. So what this is doing, this slice is showing a movement of an assumption of the movement of the S&P 500 down 5%, and then we can see a potential profit or loss according to that movement, a loss of about $514 on this long call position. So the addition here is we now have more slices. There were requests that came in to give us more slices to play with. So maybe a trader can show slices up or down 1%, 3%, 5%, 7%, highly customizable. I wanted to call that out, but not spend too much time on it because I realize it's a little bit more niche. Hopefully that was helpful to those of you who are options traders. But in any case, one final tool that's been added to the chart. This is, added to the platform. This is one that seemed to be relatively high demand. This is known as a walk limit order type. Who here is familiar with a walk limit order type? Still going to apply to our options traders. But Eric, are you excited about a walk limit order type? What in the world is that? Well, a walk limit order is an effort to try to take some of the manual workload off the shoulders of an options trader. Quite commonly, an options trader will find will be attempting to trade a contract where there's a pretty decent distance between the bid price and the ask price on that contract. And so maybe what they'll do is they put in their initial attempt to get in to that position, or maybe even exit the position, somewhere halfway between the bid price and the ask price. And if they don't get a fill, well, then they cancel that and they replace it. And if they don't get a fill, they cancel that and they replace it. They adjust that price in an effort to sort of chase down the best fill they can try to get on that order. Well, that can now be automated. So let me load this up. Now, actually, my system has been acting up just a little bit. I want to show you something on our Learning Center. It wasn't loading up for me. Difficulty here is I'm using a demonstration account, and a walk limit order has not actually been added to the fake accounts, only to the real accounts. But I'll show you what it is. Anyway, let's go to Apple. I was going to show you, here's what I'll suggest you do if you want to learn about these walk limit orders in more detail. Go to the Education tab, go to the Learning Center, and then click on what's called the release notes. The release notes are the notes that our engineers write for new releases to the platform. Then in the left column of those release notes, you'll see their dates. The June release notes, the October release notes. The March release notes, I think it was March, includes a rundown of this new walk limit order type from our engineers. So go there and read that if you want to understand how this works. But MN Dad says, ooh, the walk limit sounds nice. Yes, so here's how it would work. You have to use your imaginations a little bit because this is a fake account, doesn't actually have this new feature. The live accounts do. But let's say that we were, should we use something a little bit less? Apple will work. That's okay. It's just a concept. But let's go to the calls again. Maybe we'll go a little bit deeper in the money here. The 265 calls, they have about a 20-cent spread between the bid price and the ask price. Let's click on that, and let's say that our trader is trying to get the best price they can. So with the bid, or pardon me, with the bid, let's say that down there at 1680. Let's say our trader's trying to get filled for 1690. They're trying to get in for the best price they can. Well, what they might do here is come to this order type menu, and we'll have all the familiar order types: market, limit, stop. Well, down here toward the bottom, there will be something called a walk limit. And here, let me summarize for you very quickly what the walk limit might be able to do. In this case, the trader can select, okay, where's my starting point, the price that I'm really trying to get, and what's the end point? Like the worst case, okay, fill me if I have to. So let's say that our traders, they prefer to get filled at 1690. Ultimately, they want to cap it off at, let's say, 1710. Can't be above the current ask price, just so you know. But, and by the way, the start point can't be below the bid price. So we set our dream price. That's my word, not the engineer's word. And then we give additional instructions for increments we want to move up. A penny, 5 cents, 10 cents, whatever. And we set a time frame. So we can set up, let's say, start at 1690, and let's say every 15 seconds, if we haven't filled yet, move up a penny. Wait 15 seconds, move up another penny. You see what I'm saying here? It automatically adjusts this order until it's filled, or these are only available as day orders until the order just doesn't fill. Okay, that's a possibility. But this is known as a walk limit order. Go read about it in the engineer's notes, in the release notes under the Education tab Learning Center. All right, but guys, that's it. 10 new tools in 2025 that might have flown under the radar. I hope this was an interesting discussion for you. I'm going to let you go enjoy the rest of our educational offerings through the rest of the trading day. But before I let you go, make sure that you're aware of the full slate of educational resources available to you from Schwab Education. First of all, if you haven't subscribed to our Trader Talks channel yet on YouTube, do that. Go down below the video, click on the subscribe button. It only takes a second. It doesn't cost anything. But our YouTube channel is where you can join our live streams like the one that I'm hosting right now, or after the fact, you can go to the playlists and find the archives for these live streams. So you can check those out right there. Another thing that I would suggest that you do is to follow your favorite Schwab presenters on social media. For example, you can find Connie and me on X. You can follow Connie there at Connie Hill CS. You can find me and follow me on X at Cameron May CS. So here's my X handle. And if you reply to one of my posts here on X, I reply right back to you. For example, I just posted a video today introducing in about 2 minutes. It was actually exactly 2 minutes. Possibly a new candlestick type for you chart users. I want to go check that out. Now, I would also suggest if you have a LinkedIn account, follow me on LinkedIn. I haven't had that accessibility for very long. It's only been about a month. But right there is my post. Let's learn a new stock chart trading technique. There's that video. Check that out. It talks about, let me open this up so you can see it, spotting a candlestick called a power box on Thinkorswim, but on a different type of chart called an equivolume chart. So I explain what those are. I explain what a power box is, all within 2 minutes. Tall order, but I think I got it done. Anyway, guys, thanks for giving me your time today. Thanks for all the thumbs up. Thanks for filling out that survey. Remember, I will read that stuff. It's definitely important. It's definitely helpful. But I'll let you go. Go enjoy the rest of your day. I'll look for you in a future webcast. I'll also look for you on social media. But whenever I see you again, until that moment arrives, I want to wish you the very best of luck. Happy trading. Bye-bye.